A Las Vegas man calling himself Prophet Yahweh claimed that he could summon UFOs on demand. And in 2005, a local news crew filmed two bright spherical objects appearing in the sky right after he prayed. In 2009, BBC viewers watched live as a strange white light zipped across the Millennium Bridge in Newcastle. And in 2013, hackers hijacked the emergency alert system across several US states, broadcasting a warning that zombies were rising from their graves. These are more moments in live TV that scientists can't explain. In 2005, ABC 13 Action News in Las Vegas covered a man named Ramon Watkins, who referred to himself as Prophet Yahweh. He claimed that he could summon UFOs just by praying and said he would prove it live on camera. Well, ABC sent a reporter, Mike Dello Stritto, and a cameraman to meet him near Lake Mead. The prophet prayed, and within moments, something strange appeared in the sky. It was two bright spherical objects hovering and slowly moving in the distance. The cameraman caught them clearly on video as they floated across the sky. The footage aired live, and people who were watching could see it happen in real time. This wasn't a quick flash or something easily dismissed. It stayed visible long enough for everyone to focus on it. Prophet Yahweh said he heard a voice in his head telling him when the UFOs would appear and where to look. But was this really the case? I mean, that is obviously very hard to believe. Could the objects have been balloons, drones, aircraft? Maybe, but they didn't seem to move like any of those things. The ABC crew didn't offer an explanation, and the event still gets passed around online with no solid answer for what actually showed up in the sky that day. On August 5th, 2009, during a live morning news broadcast on BBC Northeast, anchor Colin Briggs was delivering the day's stories when something strange appeared on the screen behind him. It was this wide shot of the Millennium Bridge in Newcastle, coming from the BBC's live webcam feed. Suddenly, this white streak of light zips across the frame, not falling downward, but shooting further into the sky before disappearing. The object was fast moving, but clear enough that viewers noticed, and people started recording it from their televisions and quickly shared the clips online. Some said it was a bird, a toy plane, but it doesn't really look like either of those things to me, and it didn't to Nick Pope, who is a former UK Ministry of Defence UFO investigator. He reviewed the slowdown footage and said it didn't look like a bird and that the movement was genuinely strange. The BBC later did a follow-up asking for viewer opinions, but never provided a final answer or any definitive explanation for what happened. On February 11th, 2013, during an afternoon broadcast on KRTV in Great Falls, Montana, during an episode of the Steve Wilkos show, the emergency alert system suddenly cut in. Thank God, everyone said. Why was I watching the Steve Wilkos show? Suddenly, though, viewers heard this voice calmly announce that the, quote, bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
The message warned people not to approach these zombies and to wait for further instructions. It sounded pretty official and used the same tones and format as real emergency alerts. Within hours, similar hoax messages interrupted TV stations in Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Mexico. Even more strange, 2 days later, a radio station in La Crosse, Wisconsin played a recording of the hoax alert and accidentally triggered the EAS again, rebroadcasting the zombie warning to viewers who thought it was happening all over again. Investigators later confirmed that hackers had exploited a weak security on the emergency broadcast equipment, in many cases using default passwords that were still active. The hackers were eventually caught, but as for how exactly they did this, that's never been disclosed, probably for obvious reasons. On January 3rd, 2007, people in Australia were watching Mayday Head-On Collision, a documentary about air travel disasters, when something very weird happened. In the middle of the broadcast on Channel 7, the original audio suddenly cut out and was replaced with a looping clip from an old news story about a Halliburton convoy ambush.
Lord, Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord.
The audio was just a truck driver named Preston Wheeler screaming, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord," over and over. The audio kept repeating that same line for 5 solid minutes while the visuals from the documentary kept playing. Nobody knew how this happened. One viewer said he kept calling the station while it was happening, but no one answered the phones. There was no follow-up, no investigation. Channel 7 just brushed it off and moved on. This one is very eerie though. On October 2nd, 2014, Colette Provencher was delivering a live weather report on TVA News from the rooftop of the network's building in Montreal. As she talked, a bright green orb floated across the sky behind her. She didn't notice anything at the time, but viewers definitely did. The footage spread online and people started arguing about what the glowing object actually was. Some said it was just a meteor. Others pointed out that the object looked way too big and wasn't moving like a typical shooting star. It also seemed to slow down mid-flight, which doesn't make sense for a meteor. The orb stayed visible for several seconds and didn't burn out like you'd expect. What are we looking at here? Good question. This clip was posted to Reddit by user Steve90,000, who wrote that on December 13th, 2024 at 5 p.m., ABC News caught an orb on video when in New Jersey investigating the drone situation. At the time, tons of people were spotting UAPs over the state. So what you're looking at here is just one of them. As for what it actually was, we still don't know. On April 27th, 1986, HBO viewers were watching The Falcon and the Snowman when their screens suddenly cut to black, and for about 5 minutes, a message appeared in bright white text on a color test pattern that read, "Good evening, HBO, from Captain Midnight. $12.95 a month? No way." The broadcast had been hijacked. The person behind it was John R. McDougall, a satellite engineer who was frustrated with HBO's pricing, which he felt was unfair to satellite dish owners who had to pay monthly fees for content that used to be free. McDougall later admitted that he'd used his own satellite equipment at a Florida transmission site to briefly override HBO's signal. He knew exactly how to aim his dish and transmit at just the right frequency to cut into their feed. Authorities launched an investigation, and within a few months, he was caught. He was fined and given probation, so yeah, the guy was identified, but I just had to bring this one up. The fact that this guy successfully interrupted one of the largest cable networks without immediate detection is pretty nuts. This is one of the most high-profile broadcast intrusions in US history. In 2021, Sam Hessler, a reporter for CBS 6, was doing a live morning segment from Greenbridge Cemetery in Saratoga County, New York. At the time, everything seemed perfectly normal. Nobody on set noticed anything unusual. It wasn't until later that day when a viewer contacted the station saying they'd seen something strange walking behind her during the broadcast. When the news team went back to review the footage, they spotted it too. Some sort of figure crossing the background. It almost looked like it appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The clip got passed around and people slowed it down to try and figure out what it was. In the slowed version, you can clearly see a shadowy form moving across the screen. Now, Greenridge Cemetery already has a bit of a spooky reputation. There have been stories of eerie things there over the years. You can imagine the details. Nothing super out of the ordinary for a cemetery. But to have something captured on live television like this, that hits a little different. The reptilian conspiracy is one of the more out there theories floating around, but somehow it's got a pretty big following, partly thanks to supposed footage of it. The idea is that some of the world's most powerful people, your politicians, singers, actors, that they're not actually human, that they're instead these shape-shifting reptilian creatures wearing human skin suits as a disguise while secretly pulling the strings behind all the world's biggest decisions. What's kept this conspiracy alive for so long is what some claim to be video evidence. Over the years, live TV has supposedly caught these lizard people slipping up. There are clips of news anchors and politicians where their pupils briefly look like vertical slits instead of round human eyes. Sometimes their faces seem to glitch, momentarily revealing what looks like snake-like patches of skin underneath. Plenty of people have slowed these clips down, zoomed in, and picked apart the footage frame by frame, and then posted top 10 lists online talking about it. Well, I gotta talk about it. I know it, you know it, but that's because this is the wildest live broadcast hack in history, the Max Headroom incident, still unsolved. On November 22nd, 1987, on the evening news on WGN in Chicago, the screen suddenly cut to a man wearing a Max Headroom mask, a character from a TV show around that time. The man didn't say anything at first, he just stood there as this background behind him was spinning around, making strange movements, and you also hear a bit of a buzzing noise. The station quickly cut the feed, got back to the news. It only lasted about 20 seconds, but that wasn't the end of it. Just 2 hours later, during a broadcast of Doctor Who on the local PBS station, the same masked man took over again, and this time he started talking, mumbling phrases that made no sense, mocking TV personalities, even getting spanked with a fly swatter by someone off camera. It's a mix of emotions watching this footage. It's undoubtedly eerie, but you can't say there isn't humor in this too. The whole thing lasted about 90 seconds before the station finally managed to cut him off. The Federal Communications Commission launched an investigation, but they never caught the person responsible. To this day, no one knows who did it or exactly how they pulled it off. Why even? Breaking into live broadcasts like this is not easy. It would have required a lot of knowledge and skill. It's considered one of the weirdest unsolved broadcast intrusions ever. I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.